Hello and welcome to the Curiosity and Consciousness podcast. The intention of this podcast is to help you to open your mind, get curious about yourself and raise your consciousness levels. Through these conversations, we hope that you will go on an inward journey to discover the truth of who you are and become the conscious creator of your life. I am your host, Karen Maloney, and I work as an inside-out coach, mentor and guide, helping women to revolutionize their internal chatter and create a life they love. Listen to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or whatever platform you choose. And be sure to like, subscribe, review, and share the podcast. Check out my website as well, soulpowerlight.com, for more info. Hello everybody. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. It is me, Karen Maloney, and I am delighted to be bringing you another wonderful episode today. But before I jump in, just a reminder that if you wish to join my mailing list, please go to my Instagram handle at soulpowerlight. Click the link in the bio and it's top of the list, and I look forward to seeing you there. And don't worry, I do not clog up your inbox, but I do believe I share bits of value. So then to today's guest, and joining me today, Stephanie Charlotte Koehler, and Stephanie is the founder of stephcharlotte.com, and she helps visionary female entrepreneurs to create the impact they desire on their own true path. She is an alchemist and an accelerator of human potential using rituals, quantum healing, coaching and shamanic practices, and she's passionate about helping people to find their voice, shift from fear to fierce, turning obstacles into opportunities, and in supporting others in breaking through blockages in order to fully embody their gifts and live their soul's purpose. She offers private one-to-one mentorship and healings, online programs, and global transformational retreats. Stephanie loves to weave quantum science with ancient wisdom traditions. One of her missions is to protect the ancestral heritage of communities around the globe and help preserve these traditions for the benefit of future generations. She's also one of the co-authors in the recently published book Success Codes. And it was my pleasure to connect with Stephanie in this way and to delve deeper into her work and the gifts that she brings to the world. And she shared so much wisdom in this conversation, from how we're all energy, we're all vibrating, and how we can tap into the quantum and higher timelines to bring ourselves into the frequency and be a match for our actual dreams and desires and things that we do want. She also spoke about committing to yourself, self-responsibility, and how our triggers can be lessons. And it's the idea of learning and growing as opposed to staying in the victim role. And as she shares, that's not always so easy, and she shares a little bit about her own experience, but they are powerful teachers. She also spoke about breaking your silence and how it can be such a catalyst for healing, because when we feel like we have to keep quiet, it can be so suffocating. And she touches a little bit as well on some of the fears that we may have from speaking up, but always in the end, it is so worth it in honoring ourselves and following our own true path. And towards the end as well, she shares some beautiful messages and self-reflective questions to really connect us to the bigger picture, and that's soul remembrance and getting curious about why you came here and how you can contribute positively. So such an uplifting and powerful conversation that I believe you'll get lots from. And you can find out more about her work, about her upcoming program that she mentioned, From Fear to Fierce, and also the book that she was an author in, Success Codes. You can find those all on her website, www.stephcharlotte.com. That's STEPHCHARLOTTE.com. Or as always, I will have all the links from the show notes on my website, soulpowerlight.com. Click the podcast section and it'll all be there. Enjoy. Hello, everybody, and welcome, and thanks for tuning in for another episode. And this week I have Stephanie Koehler joining me. So, first of all, you're very welcome, Stephanie. And I have to put a disclaimer out there as well. We actually know each other. We met in the beautiful San Cristobal de las Casas here in Mexico. So, it's such a pleasure and an honor to have you join today.
Hey, thank you, Karen. What a pleasure and honor to have the opportunity to speak with you on your beautiful podcast. So thank you for the invite.
Yeah, I'm so excited and really looking forward to digging deeper into your work, because obviously when we're connecting around similar communities, but we never really talk work amongst each other. But when I when I look at your website and all the incredible things that you're doing and the new book that you're part of as well, I'm super excited to dig deeper and bring some of your gifts to the audience as well, and share some tools and nuggets that can help us all to grow and evolve even more. But why don't you just share a little bit on your background for us first, just to set the scene and really what led you to this work?
Yes. Thank you. Well, I think I share a little bit about the later years of my life because it has changed dramatically over and over. And so for quite a few years now, I work with energy. I'm a certified quantum healer. I hold different certifications, but it never really aligns with me to talk about that. So what I
Mm-hmm.
really resonate with is to call myself an alchemist and an accelerator of human potential. And what I
Love it.
mean by that is that I really enjoy helping people to break through their own limiting beliefs and blockages so that they can create and live their sacred dream and live in their highest vibrations and highest expressions. So that is in essence what I do, and that comes in a combination of things like working in the quantum field, doing galactic activations, and at the same time also very heavily rooted in shamanic ceremonies and rituals. And there's coaching involved, etc., etc. But it really always holds both components of the quantum and shamanic practices.
I love it. And you know how amazing, quantum healer, alchemist, galactic activations, all incredible, powerful words and energy and work. And, maybe just to break it down again a little bit, we have had many people talking about quantum and galactic. We'd had a galactic shaman join us before on the podcast.
Nice.
So it's not as if these are the first time maybe people are hearing about them, but they still may be very new for a lot of people. So
Mhm.
even just to explain a little bit exactly what is the quantum and galactic activations?
Yes. So, to put it very simply, we as humans or souls having this human experience, we all are energy, right? Like everything in existence is energy, whether it is a tree or whether it is whatever, your kitchen counter, everything is energy. And when we break down our physical body, say, into the most, minute thing, that is energy. And so we are always vibrating, and we vibrate at a certain frequency. And there's a thing called the consciousness map, and then people can look this up. It's actually quite interesting. And on this map, you will see a variety of emotions. And say if you are in this current climate globally, if you are prone to be more fearful or to have a lot of anxiety, then you are vibrating at a lower density than if you say, vibrate in love or in joy or in gratitude, things like that, then you will be vibrating much higher. So the quantum field really is accessible to all of us. That's not just for, a selected few. And in working with the quantum field, it's really important to understand about energies and how energies work. And the example that I have just given is that everything we experience internally will have a reflection, a mirror reflection in our external environment. That means if you are fearing the worst, then most likely the universe will provide you with many opportunities where you're just more fearful. If you, on the other hand, trust and surrender and really know that everything will be well and that you are held and supported on your path, then more of those scenarios will be presented in your outer circumstances. So this is in essence how energy works. Now, when you want to work with the quantum field, we are multidimensional beings, and we can absolutely tap into what I like to call higher timelines or different timelines. And that is when I say you have a dream that you really desire to achieve. You have to bring yourself into the frequency of what that dream resembles so that you can actually match that. Whatever you are dreaming already exists in the quantum, but you have to raise your frequency so that your dream and your state of being are a match. If you are not a match, then you're almost like missing ships, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so everything in the quantum is available, is already in existence. It's just a question of you raising your frequency to that which you actually want to see become matter. And become matter means, it's not enough to just be able to, vision in those higher dimensions. It's equally important to be so grounded in this now and here moment on earth, right? Because that's what we came here for, to then bring those dreams and bring those visions into matter, right? And so there's both. But does that kind of explain what the quantum can do for us?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love it. And it is that truth of, we have to feel it, visualize it, imagine it, be there. Like you say,
Yes.
bring yourself into that frequency before it can become a reality. And I know a lot of us, we struggle sometimes to get there because we all just like to try change matter and to focus on what's not working. But by doing that, it is actually keeping ourselves in that frequency, because as I always say as well, we are always a vibrational match for something. Like, it cannot
Yes.
be any other way. We are always vibration at a certain level, because like you say, everything is energy. So we are always have a frequency, and we are always a match for something. So it comes back to this key of self-responsibility again, and doing the work and being responsible for ourselves to bring about our dreams. But back to a word that you mentioned as well before, you're an Alchemist, and I know you talk about the art of alchemy and that, and I think it's so important, because that's exactly what we need to do in order to bring about our dreams and desires. So maybe if you could talk about that a little, and how we can be alchemists in our own lives.
Yeah, so it's alchemist, right?
Ah.
So to me, that means this, and you touched on many of those points. We are constantly striving for something outside of us, right? To fill some sort of a gap. And so the alchemist, or what I perceive my work is in this world, is to be like the bridge, to help people to raise their consciousness so that they ultimately can see not only that they hold all the answers within, but that they are in fact their own guru, right? Their own creator or creatress of their reality. And in doing so, in really transmuting and transforming those lower frequencies into that of the highest expressions, that needs work, and that needs, you said, self-responsibility. And I love this, because I say that often, it needs commitment to showing up for ourselves, right? So if we want to achieve a higher state of being, it is not enough to just think about it or just write it into your journal once. You actually have to show up as if you are already in that state that you desire on a daily basis. That means thoughts like, what are your thoughts? Because thoughts do have frequencies, and they also then become matter, right? So are you discerning of what you are thinking? How do you show up every day? How do you speak to yourself and others, right? How do you move around your life? Do you catch yourself having more scarcity thoughts, or do you live more in a vibration of surrender and trust and love? And it does take practice, but it is so important, and I cannot emphasize that enough, to be 100% self-responsible for everything in your life. And that includes, if some shitty situations happen, how do you choose to react to that? Because yes, sometimes things happen that seemed to be very unkind and that seemed to be unjust, well, guess what? We can always choose the highest timeline in that situation, meaning even if it's super unjust, what is the lesson that I learned from that versus staying like in the victim role? And that brings me to another point, and that has been true for many years because I had a lot of traumatic experiences when I was younger, when I was very young. And I was, I felt like a victim for a long time until I shifted into becoming a survivor. And for years and years and years, I thought that was a really great place to be. And yes, it was definitely, let's say, an upgrade to the victimhood, right? But I was still attached to the story. So there was a point where I chose that I was now no longer a survivor, that in fact, that didn't fit me anymore. And that I, from now on forth, I am, or I was, the creatress of my own reality. And that is the point where you actually sever and dissolve or deconstruct those programs that are holding you small and that are holding you attached still to the story, right?
Yeah, it's so true. And everyone has different things in their lives, and I actually think it's part of the human experience as well that we're actually taught this kind of state of learned helplessness, that we can't do anything for ourselves, and we are a victim of life and a victim of circumstances. And yes, absolutely shitty things happen, and yes, it's okay to be knocked down and to feel crap and feel like a victim, but ultimately we, like you mentioned, we have to come to a point of going, well, how is this serving me? Is it
Mm-hmm.
really helping me? And like they say as well, what happens to us is not our responsibility, but our healing is. And like you said as well, when we decide or when we're ready, and sometimes we're not ready, but we're ready of feeling so shit that we decide
Yeah.
to try something new, to take some new steps, to come back into our own power. And I know especially you do a lot of work with women as well around connecting to their voice, because I think so many of us, we have lost our voice and we're afraid to speak up and to stand up for ourselves. And you help people to shift from that fear, because I believe as well it is that it's totally an underlying fear that's driving all of us until we decide something else. So how do you help women as well when it comes to the voice in beginning to move or shift out of fear and begin to feel more confident and stable in themselves to speak up or to follow their truth or their heart or whatever is calling them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are many different ways in which I do this. And I mean, the desire to work with our voices stems, very clearly from my experiences with sexual violence, my personal experience in this lifetime and many others. And, it's the feeling of being helpless, of being silenced, of being shut down, right? And so I've worked on my own voice or speaking my truth for years and years and years. And I think when we raise our voices, that becomes a catalyst. Because what happens is, whether it is through upbringing, societal norms, or whether it is through trauma or whatever, it is being kept quiet is suffocating.
Mm.
Once we break the silence, healing can start, because breaking the silence and speaking your truth is one, in my opinion, or in my experience, the most powerful catalyzers that we can have. And when we start speaking our truth, yes, at the beginning, it's a little bit wobbly, it's uncomfortable, but it's a practice, right? And the more we do
Mhm.
it, the more comfortable we become in that, and the more embodied we are in our messages, in the truth that we are speaking. It's not about screaming,
Mhm.
yes, it can become very fierce, but fierce to me is powerful. It's not like condescending. It's not like going out to insult someone, right? I mean, you can speak your truth that is very different from someone else in such an embodied way that, yes, your message will be heard. And you're also not insulting anyone. You're just speaking
Mm.
your truth from the bottom of your soul. And so
Yeah.
there are different ways. I do it through very practical things. I do it through quantum activations, where again, we are removing those blockages or the programming to enable people to step up and to speak up. So there, yeah, and I have a program that's coming up. There will a lot of that will be around that. It's called From Fear to Fears, where we have practical tools, where we have tools of self-love that we are cultivating to be more confident, where we do, quantum activations and quantum healing and rituals, a combination of many things to support women to fully step into that which they came here for. And that is through utilizing their voice, because everyone's medicine and message is so important right now.
Absolutely. And, like you mentioned as well, it is kind of becoming aware of limiting beliefs and blockages, and it is a practice and everything as well. But is there something simple or an awareness practice or something that you could suggest to listeners to even start a curious or an introspective questioning themselves? What's the first step in beginning to look at limiting beliefs and blockages?
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? One practice that I like when I do journaling is to, when, say, a situation occurs and all of a sudden we are all pissed off, right? So to really take a pause and step back and really inquire where this actually comes from. Because if somebody triggers you, it might be so that somebody was rude or, tried to do you some injustice of sorts. However, if it's a trigger, it's still your trigger. That's not the other person's responsibility. It's yours. And
Yeah.
so we sometimes don't like to think about it that way, but it is what it is. So, I like to invite people to, first of all, pause and then ask themselves, where in the body do I feel something, right? So where is it located? And then if it had a voice, what would it say? Right. And then to inquire, and I mean, most likely there will be a lot coming out after this question, but then also to ask whether there's anything that can be done in this very moment that would meet the need that the person has. So if somebody is super angry, maybe they feel unsafe or whatever it might be, what is one little step I can take to now feel safe in that particular example, right? And then go do that. And of course, in order to do that, it also is helpful to have like a list of things that make you feel safe, secure, loved, honored, seen, right? So like a self-love list. What could that be? Maybe it's just as simple as drinking a glass of water, or maybe it is stepping outside and being on the ground with your bare feet. Maybe it is journaling. Maybe it is getting a massage. Maybe it is buying yourself some flowers, whatever it is, right? So those are a few things that really help us to feel more in control of our own reality, right? And honing in on that more and more and more. And then also, I mean, it could be something as simple as having a close friend, and you, I don't know whether you ever did this, do some bashing. Bashing is where you just either hit a pillow or maybe you just scream it out. And of course, if that's something that people want to try out, set a safe stage, meaning have a friend that is there with you, not to do anything about it, but just to witness you, and have, of course, a location where you can do it so that, not 2 minutes later, the police is knocking at your door,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
either do it in the forest or somewhere out in nature, or, make sure that it is a safe space where you can just go for it. And that is so helpful, because it doesn't support us if we just bottle up those denser emotions, like, for instance, anger, without ever expressing it. The point of raising yourself into higher vibrations is not that you spiritually bypass what you actually feel. It is that you kind of release it, from your vessel, from your body, mind, and spirit, so that you can then transmute it. But there have to be healthy mechanism in place so that you can release it and transmute it, because anger in and of itself is not a negative emotion. It can be very, very helpful in, say, creating like something super beautiful, because it has a lot of force, right? But if we
Yeah.
are never really allowing it to express whatever it needs to express, then that becomes unhealthy. That becomes an unhealthy mechanism that then at some point just explodes in something that most likely doesn't look all that pretty, you know?
Yeah, as I say as well, we'll either implode or explode. It's one
Yeah.
or the other. Like it's internally we're like eating away at ourselves, or it turns into disease or something like that, or we
Yes.
explode. We don't have the proper mechanisms and we just fly off the handle. But again, it's all because we're not taught these things either. It's
Mm-hmm.
learning the tools and the skills. Like you say that word, it is the commitment to ourselves. It is building disciplines and practices that support us when things are good, so we're not in a tizzy when things go bad or when a challenge comes up. We're resourced and we're ready for
Mm-hmm.
for action, but we're in a place of, it is that moving from fear totally into, like you're saying, calm and trust and love, and knowing you're supported and knowing you have tools to support yourself. So you can move through everything. And as a person as well who was totally silenced my whole life and didn't know how to use my voice, I know what that practice is as well, to start speaking your truth. And it can seem terrifying, and even learning to feel was huge. I thought feelings were the scariest thing in the world. So I love, even you mentioned journaling, or even the idea of looking at our triggers as well. Like our triggers are our teachers if we're willing, again, to
Mm-hmm.
do the work. Everything is a learning opportunity if we're willing to open our perspective and do the work. But I know, especially for women, in learning to follow their heart or speak their truth or do what they truly desire, when they come to beginning to honor their voice, they're really afraid that they might piss off a loved one, a family, a neighbor, a partner, whatever it is. But can you speak again to the importance of just getting connected and aligned to your soul? So it doesn't matter really how someone takes it. That's not our responsibility. Like you're saying, if it's coming from a place of love and your truth and you're not insulting someone. But I know it's a huge fear for a lot of people in beginning to speak up and to honor themselves, is the reaction of other people. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you help people as well to overcome that?
Yes, that's definitely, that's a huge thing, also
Mm-hmm.
right now in the collective. Here's the thing. We all are souls having a human experience.
Mm.
And each and every one of us decided that we were up for the right to incarnate and be here in this linearity. Okay. We also decided to be in the here and now. So there is no coincidence that we are actually alive or having this human experience in this huge change that we are experiencing as humanity right now. If we do not live in alignment with our soul, that creates distortions. And in the long run, because we are not true to what we are here to live, that creates bigger issues, right?
Mm.
And I'm sure that every single one who will be listening, every single person listening to this podcast will have situation or have experienced situations where when somebody really spoke their truth, even though it may have not been to your liking, there is like this element of honoring and feeling that somebody is actually really meaning what they say, and they don't have to get all aggressive around it, expressing it, right? Yes, it is true. And I can attest to that. Once you start living your path, living your true path, then there will be people that fall off your, friends list.
Mm-hmm.
I have experienced this myself. And those who see you, those who honor you, those who know deep within their heart that all you're doing is you're walking your own true path, would never be people that just ditch you along the way.
Mm-hmm.
It is those who either are projecting onto you that you need to be something else that you are here to be, or that carry so much fear within themselves that they would never have the guts to walk their own true path. And let's just face it, if you desire to really be in your highest expressions, you probably wouldn't consult someone who never will have the guts to pull the ripcord. You would look up to someone who actually has the courage to walk their own true path. So
Mm-hmm.
it is when you have to come to an understanding again that you are absolutely 100% self-responsible for your life. And that means for the way in which you create it. There comes a choice point where you just need to have a come to Jesus conversation and between you and God, the universe, source, however you label it, and see, okay, this feels like a challenge, right? This feels uncomfortable. How can I now see it as an opportunity for growth? And then tap into your heart. And, I use muscle testing a lot, to
Mm-hmm.
really kind of tune in with my high self and my guides. And then I don't question after that. The
Yeah.
answer is clear, and then I just go for it. If we don't step out of our comfort zone, there's no growth. Growth happens on the other side of your comfort zone. And if we wouldn't have
Sure.
the monkey mind that always, gives us the biggest headache, we also wouldn't inquire about our reality. We wouldn't question life as it is. So, yes, the monkey mind can be the most annoying thing. And again, it's the way of how we're looking at things, right? So, it is stepping over the threshold and allowing yourself to be all you are here to be, and
Mm-hmm.
not to live a life that is aligned with someone else. No, it needs to be aligned with your own soul. And from there, things will fall into place. Yes, some will fall off and others will come in. And the ones that are
Mm-hmm.
coming in, those will be your soul tribe. And they will always support, witness, celebrate, honor you for who you are in this linearity.
Yeah, beautiful. So true. And, it is part of the journey as well, like you say, stepping outside the comfort zone. And eventually, when you are really aligned as well, and you're speaking from your heart and your soul, like that, it is part of the process as well, learning not to take things personally. Because, as you mentioned, everyone's going through their own things. And often it's just a projection
Mm-hmm.
of our own pain that we're carrying inside. And, there's that saying as well, people who are living their life, they don't have time to spend criticizing or speaking bad about others. They're busy upgrading and in growth and evolution. So it's just, compassion comes into it as well, and just allowing each person to be as they are. There's no need to defend or fight. It's just like, okay, well, we're in two different spaces right now, and that's okay.
Totally. And compassion
Each
for self also, right? I
hugely,
mean, both.
hugely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, compassion for everyone. Compassion is huge. Well, just to touch on, what do you think is the bigger message or the bigger calling that we're all being asked now, going through these transitioning times and once in a lifetime, certainly in our lifetimes, transitions that we're going through now and have been going through for the last 18 months or so?
Well, my invitation is in this time to again, come to a very clear understanding why you committed to come here, and what the message is, and what your medicine is that you bring to the world, right? And sometimes we don't know what it is, but how can we inquire more deeply? What is it? What are my gifts? What am I passionate about? How can I inspire and motivate not just myself, but my loved ones, my family, my community, the world at large to live in their highest expressions? Clearly, I mean, there are a lot of things going on right now. I personally chose for myself, and I know that this is part of why I'm here, not to go down the rabbit hole and not to, dive deeply into any conspiracy theories, or not to just,
Mm-hmm.
that's just not my gig. That's not
Mm-hmm.
why I came here for. I am a true and huge believer in living in my highest expressions and setting an example of how I show up in the world, because I know how energy works and I know this has a positive effect on others, right? So I think the biggest question for everyone right now is, how can we see that, as we said at the beginning, we are all energy, we are vibrating into the field, meaning the collective existence of energy, right? So if I know that, if I have understood that or understood in my heart, right, how can I now contribute positively by streaming higher frequencies into the field? Because whether or not we are choosing to step up and bring forth the gifts that were given to us to be shared, we are vibrating, right? So we are streaming into the field one way or another. So that just happens automatically. But are we conscious that all has an effect? Everything has an effect. And so how do you choose to show up? And remember, there have been countless examples in the history of humankind about people that were very, very, very known, right? Whether it is Mandela, or whether it is Gandhi, or whether it is Martin Luther King, or whoever it is, they were the ones who held a vision for the betterment of humanity. And yes, they have endured quite some challenges, and they chose to use those challenges or to transform those challenges into opportunities of growth for the greater whole, right? Understanding that it's not about us individually. It is about supporting the collective and humanity at this point in time, and shifting into a state of being where everyone wins, where everyone gets to live in joyful abundance, in optimal health, in bliss, in play, right? That is our birthright. It is not just a luxury. Those things are fractals of our divine consciousness. And so we are here to live in that state. And as we have been entering the Aquarian era last year, that means that it is not any longer about power over. It is about power with. And that means we get to celebrate and support one another. But if we continuously still buying into the separation that is being projected and programmed into the collective, then it will just take longer to get there. The quicker we are all on board to kind of have a similar understanding of how these things work, the quicker we are on the other side.
Beautiful. What a beautiful message. And, again, it may not be something some people have ever thought about, why I committed to come here, but like we all did. And even just allowing the energy of a question like that to absorb in your being, you don't need to know the answer straight away. But when we ask questions and just allow the space, a new energy can open up. And just again, that realization that, yes, everything does have an effect. And it's about us all, again, back to that word, being self-responsible and being really conscious about our energy, about our thoughts, about how we're choosing to spend our time and our days for ourselves and for everyone else. So I think they're just such beautiful reflections to have people lean into as well, that are really, really powerful, and that's really beautiful. So thank you so much for that. And before we finish up, I'd love to touch on your book as well that you were co-author on, called Success Codes. So tell us a little bit more about that and your chapter in it.
Yes. So I just wanted to add one thing to the last question.
Sure.
That is soul remembrance, that just dropped in. So it's really for those who haven't pondered too deeply about their existence here on earth, please understand that when we chose to reincarnate, we also agreed to forget everything we knew so that we can learn the lessons that we are here to learn. And so it's not really about someone else, telling you who you are. It is about unveiling of that which you already are, of remembering who you are. So really trusting deeply in your power, into your own inner knowing, and that everything happens in divine orchestration. So there's never something I'm too old, I'm too late, I've never really thought about it. Wherever you are right now is perfect. Just use the invitation to lean in more, right? And if you say you meditate and you don't get your answer the first day you start meditating, well, put it into perspective. You may have not done so your entire life. So give it a little bit of space before you get the answer, right? So
Totally. Patience and compassion.
Exactly. Yeah. So I wanted to add that. And so now
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. Yeah. So now to success code. So I was approached a while back whether I wanted to co-author this book. And this book is in essence about how we define success in a way that wasn't taught in school and in our upbringing, right? And it was such a beautiful collaboration with over 20 other goddesses who pretty much wrote their story and how they define success. So it's available on Amazon, and I think we have the link here somewhere afterwards. And it was such a beautiful invitation because it allowed me again to see how everything in my life was divinely orchestrated. And so I briefly touched here in our conversation today. I touched a little bit on the experiences I had when I was younger, sexual violence, and in many lifetimes prior, my father committed suicide in this lifetime, and it was just a lot of trauma. Now, granted, I don't wish that on anyone else, and I also don't wish to repeat those experiences. And they clearly have made me to the woman I am today. So seeing how all those trials and tribulations ultimately allowed me to find those access points of remembrance, to be met with mentors or programs where I just had a greater understanding of who I truly am, has been a huge process. And to really write this again in success codes was quite cathartic because it also brought up new layers that wanted to be unveiled, So it was a beautiful process, and it was powerful because it's just another way of how we can utilize our voices to motivate and inspire others to do the same.
Amazing. Love it. And I can't wait to check it out myself. But yeah, the new layers to be unveiled. Always, always, always. That is the journey, isn't it? What a
Yes.
beautiful conversation. I really, really appreciate you joining and connecting in this way. It was so beautiful. And before we finish up, if there's any final messages that you feel important to share, please do. And please also share where people can find out more on your work.
Yes, thank you. Well, I'm just feeling deeply honored to have these opportunities, because I really believe in collaborations. I believe in co-creations. I believe in when we come together as one, the force that is being created is unstoppable, and the more opportunities like this, having an opportunity to speak on your beautiful podcast or creating a program with someone or even just having people join your program or programs is a way of creating this ripple effect that we really have no control over how far it reaches, but it does ripple, right?
Yeah.
And so seeing that as, again, from a place of how we are connecting with the greater whole is something that is always very, very inspiring to me. And that is the biggest motivator for all I do in my work, to see how we can utilize our gifts. I like to call it our sacred medicine, to help others to raise their voices and to walk their own true path. And that might be completely different from whatever I believe in. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we come to this point of understanding that we are here to shine. We are here to truly make a huge impact in the world. And sometimes that might seem a little intimidating, but you already make a huge impact when you touch your loved one, when you touch your family with whatever you're saying, right? And what we are saying that resonates often with others is also coming through your high self and your guides, right? Yeah, it's a nice imagination that we are so super smart and whatever comes out of our mouth is just so perfect, but we are mostly, when we are connected, it comes through from our guides, those are messages, and we are just merely a channel or, well, a vessel to deliver those messages. So I'm really, really grateful. And yeah, I mean, as I said, I am starting a new program, From Fear to Fierce. And since I do a lot of shamanic work, I always like to also anchor those new programs around, new moons or other astrological beautiful events. And so the new moon of October is on the 6th. And that's when I will start from fear to fierce. And if people are interested, they can find more information around this on my website, which is stephcharlotte.com/from fear to fierce. And, I think the other links will be here, how to connect with me on social media. And I'm just, again, super, super grateful for the opportunity and looking forward to have more conversations like that. Or if people want to approach me, please send me a private message or just post something. I'm always very, very open to just, have a dialogue. I love it. So thank you, Karen.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. And as always, I will have everything linked on the show notes on my website as well, to your website, to the book, to your socials and everything if anyone wants to reach out. And I encourage them to reach out. Like you say, it is the age of co-creation and collaboration, and the ripple effects are powerful. So thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. I love you, and I can't wait to see you again in person, and keep doing you.
Yay. Thank you so much, Karen. So much love. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you get notified every time a new show is released. Get more information on this week's guest as well on my website, www.soulpowerlight.com.